and welcome to Meet Our Ex's Success Stories podcast. I'm host and coach Amanda Leah, and I'm looking very forward to speaking with our guest today. He's a ketogenic coach and natural professional bodybuilder. He's the man behind Keto Savage. Thanks for speaking with us about your fat-adapted success today, Robert Orion Sikes.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I certainly do appreciate the opportunity.
It's our pleasure. So let's get started. Please tell us about your diet and health before you began eating the way that you currently do.
Absolutely. So before I got into keto, I guess way back when I started bodybuilding as a junior in high school, I just followed I was 115 pounds, and I just wanted to follow the eat big to get big philosophy. And that entailed eating a lot of food, 6,000 calories a day, all coming from heavily processed carbohydrates. I mean, I was broke. I was eating just whatever I could afford, which was those 1,000-calorie macho chimichangas and just terrible, terrible food. But I put on 230 pounds and got to be pretty hefty. Not necessarily a good thing by any stretch of the imagination, but I was following that protocol, that traditional bro dieting approach to nutrition. Lots of protein, very minimal fats, lots of carbohydrates. And that worked in the sense that I was able to build a lot of muscle, and then I would lean down. At my first competition prep, I lost 70 or 80 pounds in about 3 months. But it was a very unsustainable way to live. I lost a lot of muscle in the process, and I knew there had to be a better way. I developed a bunch of eating disorders in the process. It just wasn't enjoyable. I would eat 6-7 meals a day, and you have to carry Tupperware with you around everywhere we go. I'd be in college, and I'd have to stop mid-final exam to open up a Tupperware and eat a meal. It just was not enjoyable. So I started playing around with something called carbohydrate backloading, which is a principle developed by John Kiefer, which is basically ketogenic during the day, and then you introduce a bunch of high glycemic index carbs during the evening hours. But I noticed that I felt better before the introduction of the carbs, so I just kind of phased them out and did carb backloading minus the carbs, which lo and behold became keto, as it's known now. I started doing that about 2014, and I just felt much better. I felt my relationship with food improved, my hormones stabilized, my metabolism improved, and I was able to kind of step away from the disordered eating that I was struggling with at the time. And I'm like, you know what, this feels right. I'm going to go ahead and try and do a competition prep with this protocol, even though all my fellow gym rats were saying you cannot bodybuild without carbs. But I wanted to just see what would happen. And I did just that. My 2017 competition prep involved no carbohydrates, and I was able to get leaner than I ever had before, and actually earn my pro card status with a ketogenic protocol to nutrition. And I haven't looked back since. I've been doing keto now for about 6 years, and I just continue to improve. And I'm just passionate about the lifestyle, the nutritional protocol, and anything I can do to spread the word to others. That's what I'm motivated to do.
That's amazing. Wow. And I'm sure plenty of people are motivated by what you've been able to accomplish. Eating disorders that you were able to get past, that's huge with this way of eating. Did you notice, you mentioned your hormones were out of whack beforehand. Did you notice any physical differences after you started eating keto immediately? What did that look like for you in terms of getting past your eating disorders and noticing the hormone changes?
Yeah, so I would have these crazy fluctuations in cravings and satiety and hunger, and like my mental relationship with food was just skewed. I think that was spurred on because I had, that first competition prep, I had dieted so hard and been in a deficit for so long, and I was able to lose all that weight and basically revamp myself, redefine who I was. And then after that first competition, I just ate a bunch of carbs like most competitors do, and I put on 20 pounds in 24 hours. And I knew that just wasn't healthy. I felt like I had thrown away so much hard work for nothing. And that really led me down the path of, binging and then beating myself up for binging and then purging. It just became this very vicious negative feedback loop. When I started incorporating more of a whole foods ketogenic approach, my relationship with food improved. It just seemed right. Like I would feel guilty eating a bunch of donuts because donuts obviously are not good for you. Whereas I would eat a bunch of meat and homegrown vegetables and things of that nature. And it just felt like a healthier approach to nutrition. So that really helped stabilize everything. And my energy and performance improved, I think, in part because my hormones just improved from a baseline standpoint with the increase in quality foods, dietary fats, and things of that nature. I mean, if you're in a bodybuilding standpoint, you're having very little dietary fat, like your testosterone is going to tank. And for me as a natural bodybuilder, that's not a good thing. So I think having the increased dietary fat really helped stabilize that, and everything just kind of became much more even keel, and I was able to just continually improve year after year after year.
That's amazing. And that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. So when you changed over to keto, I mean, how does that look? What kind of things do you eat now? How frequently do you eat? Tell us all about those details.
Yeah, so when I first got into keto, it was probably pretty similar to a lot of people. I mean, I was wanting to make all these keto look-alike foods, so like the keto pizzas, the keto cheesecakes, the keto desserts, and I think that was a great stepping stone. It helped me bridge the gap, but the longer I've been in keto, the more I've stepped away from that, and honestly, the more I've stepped away from vegetation. Like I used to eat a whole bunch of salads and everything in the beginning, and now, I mean, it's pretty rare to see me with a salad. It's pretty much just meat. And that's pretty much it. I did invent the keto brick as a way to help increase my dietary fat during my 2017 competition prep. So I'll have typically one of those every single day, which is 1,000 calories, coupled with some, you know, meat protein source, like whether it be ground beef or like a ribeye or some type of fish that in context with the keto brick, and I'm pretty much able to hit my macro ratios, my Nicole numbers, and satisfy my my cravings and satiety needs.
That's amazing. That brick sounds really good, actually. I haven't had it yet. I'm going to have to look into it. But so do you, since you're eating so much meat and you've dropped so much of the plants, do you find yourself supplementing with anything, or do you focus on organs? Are you high fat, low fat? Do you include things like coffee still? Like, is that something?
Oh, I definitely include coffee.
Okay, got it.
I'm not so hardcore carnivore that coffee has gone the wayside. I do like my coffee, and I don't really supplement anything from like a greens standpoint. I do have organ meats. I like having the organ meats. I enjoy eating organ meats. I hunt a lot, so I try and harvest all the organ meats from the deer I kill and eat those throughout the year. I love liverwurst as well. I think liverwurst is a very palatable source and way to get organ meats in. And if you cook some of that up with like ground or scrambled eggs or something, it's a great way to hedge your beds, get all those nutrients in, and it tastes amazing. So I'll have that on a pretty regular basis as well.
That's great. And do you find that, a lot of people in our community find that they eat less just when they're fat adapted? It would be curious to know, how often do you eat?
I eat less volume for sure, much less volume. I typically eat 2 meals a day if I'm in a caloric maintenance or a caloric surplus. And then as I get deeper into a deficit, like when I'm prepping for a competition, I'll typically transition to a 1 meal a day approach, simply because in the context of being in a caloric deficit, I feel like it's better for the mind to have one meal that actually fills you up instead of 2 or 3 meals that just always leave you wanting a little bit more. So I'll do like the OMAD approach in a deficit. But yeah, 2 meals a day. I mean, I feel like my productivity is much, much better than back in the day when I was eating 6 or 7 meals and I had to structure my life around when my next meal was. Whereas now it's like I eat when I'm hungry and I don't worry about it. I just get work done.
That's so perfect and so much more effective for just living, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So that's great. I mean, it sounds already like you've kind of laid it out for us that this new way of eating, or I guess it's not new for you at this point, but that the ketogenic diet has really had an impact on your overall health. Can you tell us anything more about how it's impacted your practice, your professional bodybuilding, or just your health overall, or even relationships, things in your life?
Yeah, I think it's just so much more and sustainable and enjoyable and just in line with how I've defined myself as a person, as an athlete, and as an entrepreneur. I feel like it has this symbiotic relationship with every facet of my life. I feel like my wife does it, so she's on board with it. She used to struggle with from a bunch of digestive issues, and that all got resolved once she switched over to a keto carnivore-esque approach to eating. So we're on the same page there, and it just feels right. Like I feel like it's healthy. I feel like it's in line with my hunting passion for hunting, and I feel like it's truly the most effective and efficient way to set yourself up for success for the long term, from a natural bodybuilding standpoint, but also from a sustainability standpoint and longevity standpoint, from a health span standpoint. I'm excited for what I look like as a bodybuilder at 75 years old. I'll be stepping on stage and kicking these 30-year-olds butts that are eating a bunch of carbs, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that sounds like something to be excited about, and I'm sure you will be. I'll look forward to that as well. That's
Thank
great.
you.
And like I said, I'm sure you've had such an impact on so many people with Keto Savage. Is there anything else you've shared so much already? Is there anything else you'd like to say as a message to anybody who is taking on this ketogenic way of eating or bodybuilding naturally?
I would just encourage people to give it the time it needs. Like, for you to fully adapt is not something that's going to happen overnight. I mean, being adapted for 2 weeks is far different than being adapted for 6 months, which is far different than being adapted for 6 years versus a lifetime. I see so many people with this quick fix mentality that want to move from one thing to the next, and they always view the grass being greener on the other side. And that's just not the way the world works. Whenever you dive deep into something and you commit to it, and you allow your body to make the most of it and allow your mind to make the most of it, that's where the progress comes in. That's why I love natural bodybuilding. It's not like taking a shot and getting a bunch of muscle gained over the course of a couple months. It takes years and years and years. And the same is true with regard to your nutrition. Like, you'll see some inherent benefits very quickly, but if you allow yourself to adapt and play that long game with it, you're just going to continue to get better. I mean, it truly is the fountain of youth. So I would just encourage people listening to give it the time it deserves and fully commit.
That's brilliant. That's so brilliant. Patience, right? That's
Absolutely.
amazing. Commitment and patience. Love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing your super story with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.